Hi, Kevin Tharp here, and what we're doing is we are dealing with the floating, and this follows up on the positioning. So what I want to do here first is change that to floating so we know what exercise it is. And in the basics exercise, what we did is we applied properties of float right to each of these four boxes. Each of those four boxes is a div that we applied the float property to. So each of them has their own div and their own ID, and we've applied the styles. We gave them a background color, a height, a width, and a float right in order to do this. Now the last thing that we did before we left is that we put a clear on this footer, because prior to that clear the footer had floated up as well. So once you have a floating element, everything that it will come floating up next to it. And so by putting that clear on there, what we did is we stopped this element from floating up next to it, and so that made a stop to this. So I'm going to go ahead and walk this backwards. I'm going to clear that float off again, and then you notice it pops back up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the float on box 4, and then I'm going to walk all the way back. And you notice when I clear that on box 4, all of a sudden this blue background that belongs to the div with the ID of main shows back up, whereas before I took that off, when the float was still right on box 4, that had disappeared. You cannot see that content for that main ID. Now the main ID is, the content of it is these four other divs, but that has collapsed. If we were to take the color off of these different boxes, we wouldn't be able to see, like I'll go ahead and comment out the color for box 1, and if you do that, then that clears that off, but you'll notice that that blue isn't back there. This blue that's in that first part actually belongs to the footer, and that's sitting up in there. So we have this main div back there, but it's not visible. So what we want to do is we want to explore why that's going on. And let me clear those comments out. And that's a good way to test, by the way, what's going on with one element at a time. If you want to test something to see if it's doing what you think it's doing, you can comment that one element out without deleting it, and then it's still there in case it's not doing. And so that's a good testing procedure. So what I want to do again is we've got the footer clear taken off, and then we're going to walk backwards with these floats. And as soon as that happens, as soon as this box 4 returns to normal document flow, then the content or the container around it goes back and reestablishes its presence, because it's not able to collapse into the page. Now if I broaden this out so that that box can go up all the way, you'll notice that that blue is still there, but only for the level of this box 4. So what that div of main is doing is it is expanding and contracting in order to fill the space for those elements of that box, the content elements within it that stay within the normal document flow. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the rest of these out and show you what happens. So we clear off all the floats, and this is the normal document flow. Now when I go back into the live view, you'll notice that there's also a line there. That's because we haven't got a reset style sheet on here. And so what that actually is the bottom margin of this unordered list that's up there. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and take that out, or apply a style to that that's going to get rid of that. And so the way that I can tell is I look at this exercise 2, and I come into my code, and I've got my unordered list here. And so that space there is actually, if I was using a reset style sheet, that would be cleared from there, but I'm not using a reset style sheet. So I'm going to do the functional equivalent here, and what I'm going to do is actually is that an unordered list? It's an unordered list. So what I want to do is I want to do an unordered list, and I want to set padding and a margin to margin, and that gets rid of that. So that just clears that up. And so if I was using a reset style sheet, then it would have done that. So I went ahead and add that just so that it doesn't get in the way of us being able to visualize what's going on here. So I've cleared out those floats. I've got my normal document flow here. There's nothing outside of the normal document flow. And as you recall, if you insert the floats to them, that takes each of these boxes one at a time out of the normal document flow. And so I'll put those back in there, and so it moves out, and you notice that everything's slid up because that's not in the normal document flow. And that is exactly what is happening with each instance of this, is that as I am adding that code to it, it's moving that element out of the normal document flow, and everything else is moving up into that location of that normal document flow, like right here where you got box 4, until when you get to the last of it, the main element disappears and the footer climbs up there as well.